Hey everyone, welcome to TalentBin webinar number 8. Thanks for joining us here on your Friday. Today's topic is writing a perfect first email. Why are we discussing this? Well, first impressions are everything, and as a product specialist here at TalentBin, we see how important first emails are. Recruiters without a good first email have a low response rate. And when candidates respond, the responses tend to be unproductive, right? No thanks, take me off your list, I'm not interested, I'm happy with what I'm doing. And you compare that to recruiters who are using a great first email and the response rate's much higher. We see candidates opening up with their current situation, which makes it very easy to continue the conversation, build a relationship, and make placements both now and in the future. So in my opinion, a great first email is the most important thing you can do when using TalentBin. So we're only going to cover 3 things today. Number 1, we'll discuss passive candidates, right? Because TalentBin is a tool for recruiting passive candidates. TalentBin does not have resumes and it does not have active candidates who are seeking a job. So let's understand the people we're sending our first emails to. And let's look at some of the not so perfect first emails. I think it's really helpful to see what's not working before we take a look at what works. Number 2, we'll transition into perfect first emails. Why now? Why is it easier than ever now to send a great first email? We'll show you some real examples. So emails that are being sent on TalentBin and having a really high degree of success. We'll talk about the response rate and the quality of the responses. And then we'll break down the common characteristics that we see in these perfect first emails. Lastly, we'll look at best practices for speed and efficiency. I'll take you into TalentBin and I'll show you how to send a great first email quickly, right? Because we don't want to spend 30 minutes writing a perfect first email. We want to have a template. We want to use everything TalentBin gives us so that we can send a great first email within 3 to 5 minutes. And then we'll leave some time for questions at the end as well. So let's talk about the passive candidate. This is kind of a funny cartoon here, but I think it kind of illustrates the mindset of a passive candidate, right? For a passive candidate, life is good. Passive candidates not looking for a job. They're not on job boards. When they go to bed on Sunday, they're not dreading work on Monday morning. For the most part, they're pretty happy with their current life situation. And so, if we remind ourselves of that, what is wrong with the way we're approaching this passive candidate? We reach out, we say, hey there, I have a great opportunity that I think you'd be interested in hearing more about. Well, 1, we have no personalization. Number 2, we did not explain why it's a great opportunity. And for a passive candidate, you have to explain the why. You have to show them how their life can be better. Otherwise, they're not going to respond, right? Because they're content, like things are pretty good. And these are the 2 main categories. I'm going to go over these categories in depth. 1, personalization. 2, explain why it's a great opportunity. And you might be saying, hey, Dave, that's not a first email. I would never send that to a candidate. That's just a sentence. But let's take a look at some real first emails, and we'll see that they're not all that much different. So this is a real first email that's being sent to candidates on TalentBin. And, there's a lot of things that this email is lacking. 1, it's not very short. It's hard to scan. You can kind of see it bleeds off of my page. I might be able to break my presentation here and show you this. Let's see. So yeah, take a look at this. This is a real email, right? And there's no way like a passive candidate is going to read this thing, right? It's just way too long. And So let's break it down. Let's take a look at some of the things we were discussing in terms of personalization. Uh, did we personalize? No. Title, senior web developer with Sitecore experience. We're just saying, hey, job opportunity. Hey, passive candidate, here's a job opportunity, even though you're happy with what you have going on. Number two, did we explain why the opportunity is worth a further look? No, not at all. All we did was say, hey, read this job description that I copied and pasted into the email. So, if we look at the results here, this recruiter has not had a candidate respond. It's about as bad as it gets on TalentBin. Obviously, no responses are unproductive. That's a pretty bad example. So let's take a look at one more. And this one's a little bit better, right? We reach out, subject line, DevOps in New York, you interested? So a little bit of personality there, but still screams job opportunity. And if we look at personalization, a little bit, right? We say, hey, I was cruising around the web on GitHub and LinkedIn. So I guess that's a little bit personalized, but we can still send this literally to the thousands, millions of developers who have a GitHub and LinkedIn. So, if I'm on the other end of this email, it still feels like the bare minimum. And if we take a look at an explanation for why the opportunity is good, not at all. This is just like the cartoon, right? Where we say, hey, I think you'd be interested in what they're up to, but we don't say why. We don't give any reason for why the candidate should be interested in what our client is up to. So the response rate here, 8%, pretty low, right? You should be up over 25% with a good first email. So this is way below great. And if you look at, and this is really important here, if you look at the response type, it's unproductive, right? A majority of the responses coming back are very short. I'm not looking for a new job at this time. Thank you. I'm happy with what I'm doing. Please take me off your list. Sorry, no longer doing DevOps and not currently looking. So what we see here is that candidates are not opening up about their situation, and it's very hard with a response like this to continue a conversation, to build a future pipeline, right? And so this is a good indication. If you're using TalentBin and a lot of your responses feel unproductive, then it's time at that point to go back to your first email, do some rethinking, and we actually have a checklist which you can use to make sure you're on the right track. So if a majority of your responses feel unproductive, reference this checklist and see if you can answer yes to any of these questions. And if you can, then we'll take the time, call your product specialist, we'll work with you. To improve your first email. So, just a quick check here, on the left-hand side, under not personalized, does our subject line scream job op? If so, we're hurting our open rate, which hurts our response rate. Don't send something that screams job op to a passive candidate. Number two, does your email forget to mention why that particular candidate is awesome? And number three, does your email fail to mention at least one of the candidate's unique skills? 2 and 3, take some time, make an effort to show the candidate that you want to understand them. You want to understand them so that you can find a good fit, right? It'll earn trust, and that'll help you get a higher response rate. And then number 4, obviously we want to be current with our personalization, right? So take the time to check, make sure, and I'll show you how to do this later in the call, check to make sure that you're sending something that's current, their most recent skills, their most recent work. And number 5, is your email being blasted to hundreds of people at once? Obviously, if this is the case, you are not personalizing your first email, and it's just not something we do with passive candidates, right? We can get away with it when we're sending our emails to active candidates because we know they're looking for a job, but with passive candidates, we need to take the time to personalize our outreach. And then over here on the right hand side, we need to articulate why the opportunity is great. So if our first email does not explain why the role is awesome, the technical challenges, the team that you're working on, the culture, what's fun, what's unique about the culture, if we're not explaining any of this, then we give the candidate nothing that says, hey, this is how your life can be better, right? So take the time to personalize, take the time to explain why the opportunity is great. And I can kind of hear you saying right now, Dave, that takes forever. There's no way I'm going to be able to personalize every email. I have 20 plus recs. Everything's a fire. I cannot get enough emails out if I personalize every single email. And I hear you loud and clear. TalentBin hears you loud and clear. And we're doing a ton on our end to make it very easy for you to send a personalized email quickly, right? The first thing we did is we went out, the TalentBin product, we crawl all of the sites a candidate is active on, professional and personal sites. We bring this data into one location so that you don't have to go out to each one of these sites on your own, search for the candidate, find the information, compile it. We do all of that for you, and we've been doing that now for a long time. The next big thing, and this is new, is dynamic custom variables within TalentBin, and these curly brackets are very powerful. So when you use custom variables within TalentBin, we're going to automate the personalization of your first email. So when you create a template and you drop these beautiful little curly brackets into your email template, and then you go to send, we're going to automatically pull in the candidate's top professional interest, the candidate's personal interest number one. We're going to pull in where the candidate was active on the web. And so when you use these in your templates, you're going to speed up your workflow. And this is something I'm going to show you how to do at the end of this webinar. I'm going to take you inside TalentBin and show you how to send personalized emails within 3 to 5 minutes. So before I do that, let's just kind of take some time, and I want to show you some emails that are great. These are recruiters who are personalizing. These are recruiters who are explaining why the opportunity is great, and they're using custom variables to do it, and they're doing it quickly. So let's just break down this first email, right? Personalized. Yep. What do we say? Had a chance to scope out your personal website, and it was great to learn about the work you've done on Chase Pay, particularly on the .com site and mobile app, right? So we're commenting on this person's specific activity. Awesome. Number 2, did we explain why the op is worth a further look? Yes. The product is awesome because we get to power payments for some really neat brands: Uber, Airbnb, GitHub, OpenTable, and more. Here is a cool link to read up on our work, right? And then in the third paragraph, we explain again, why is this awesome? Well, our front-end devs spin up their own node servers, create and maintain server-side libraries, and collaborate with our back-end devs who write code in Ruby, Clojure, Java, and more. So you're talking all about the team, the technology, the challenges, right? Maybe I'm a front-end guy and I want to be exposed to back-end devs who write Ruby, Clojure, Java, and more. There's a ton of information here. And if you look at this recruiter's response rate, 40%, well above that 25% benchmark I mentioned earlier. And if you look at the type of response, this one response almost takes up the full slide, right? And there's a ton of information here. So the candidate says, I'm definitely open to having a discussion with you. The culture there also seems like it would be a better fit with my personality than where I currently am, right? This would have never happened if we did not explain why the opportunity is good. And then you look at the bottom, obviously this is an interested candidate. Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of next week would be best. Thanks for contacting me. Awesome, extremely productive response. Let's look at another one. Kudos for the research, smiley face. I'd be up for a chat next week. So everything is positive, right? This is going to lead into a less awkward phone screen, right? Because things are positive. We took the time to personalize our email. We care about this person. They're happy. They're positive. Things are good. Let's look at one more. And I find this really interesting. So even on the no's, right? So this is a no, not now response, but it's still productive because the candidate explains his current situation and he gives you a ton of information to go off of for a future opportunity, right? He says, thanks for reading my blog post. I'm sorry you had to suffer through that. And then at the end, he says, a better time for me would be about a year from now, as my wife will be finishing up med school and entering a residency program somewhere. So if I'm the recruiter and I get this response, this is awesome. I have so much more personal data to reference when I reach back out. Maybe in 3 months I check in. Maybe in 6 months I say, hey, how's your wife doing with her residency program? Wanted to touch base and also find out a little bit more about your current situation. So this is a productive no, and this is all because we took the time to personalize our outreach, right? And we also explained why the opportunity is worth a further look. Let's look at one more good, possibly, actually I think this is actually a great first email. So if you look at the subject line here, it's totally personal, right? We're referencing underwater graveyard World War II planes plus invoked logic, PHP 5, and MySQL equals awesome developer. And then in the body, saw your about page on invoked logic, and we're looking for an experienced Magento, PHP, and overall full stack developer. Also liked your tweet about the underwater World War II planes, right? So we're showing the candidate that we've actually taken the time to look at their work, taken the time to read up on their recent tweets, found something we can relate to them on a human level with, and that goes a long way. Box number 2. Did we explain why the opportunity is worth a further look? Sure. We said, you'd be an asset here, bringing in what you know about Magento, e-commerce, and shopping cart, PHP, and MySQL, and you'd have an opportunity to take a startup to the next frontier while leading our other developers, right? So why is this great? Well, I'm going to be leading a team. My experience, my background is a perfect fit. I'd be an asset to this company. Awesome. Response rate for this recruiter thus far, 51%. 1 out of every 2 emails she sends out, she gets a response. Response type, again, productive, right? Here are 3 responses where the candidate is opening up about their current situation. You look at the first response. I am very interested in exploring the opportunity as you explained it. It sounds like a fun and interesting technical challenge to help out with the re-platforming of your e-commerce shopping cart. If we didn't say this, if we didn't explain this in our first email, then this response would have never come back, right? So, I just want to show you that the 2 things, and I've been talking about them nonstop: personalization, explain why the opportunity is worth a further look. When you do that, you'll see your response rate go up. It'll get up above 25%, and you'll see the response quality improve quite a bit. Candidates will open up, and you'll be building more relationships. You'll be making more placements. So I just wanted to kind of show you some real examples. Hopefully that gets you excited to do it. And now I want to actually just give you one more checklist. You can use this checklist to make sure you're on the right track. Earlier in this webinar, I gave you a checklist that would kind of indicate whether you were sending bad emails or not. And this one's to make sure you're sending good emails. So just reference this, personalization, articulate why the opportunity is great. If you can answer yes to most of these questions, then it's time to hit the send button. So I want to kind of wrap things up by showing you how to send great emails quickly. I know that's a major concern, right? Because we have a limited amount of time. And so here's 4 things that you should do to be efficient. Number 1, develop templates, right? Like for every situation you come across more than once on TalentBin, you should have a template, right? So, and the reason why I say develop rather than write, because you should improve your templates. Over time, you should iterate. You should make sure your templates are getting better as you use the product. And I'll show you how to do this here in just a minute. Number 2, spend some upfront time to explain why the opportunity is great. This is hard. This does take time. You have to maybe research the client, the website. You may maybe read some Glassdoor reviews to find out why people like working for the company. You might even have to reach out to the hiring manager, right? Say, hey, help me write a good first email. But the thing about this is that it scales. You don't have to do it with every email. If you do it right one time and you explain why the opportunity is great in your template, then you're done. So it's okay to spend 30 minutes thinking about why the opportunity is great. Number 3, automate your emails, automate the personalization with custom variables. And this is the big thing here on TalentBin. I'm going to show you how to do it. Not having to manually personalize the email, having it happen automatically will save you a ton of time. And then number 4, before pushing send, on TalentBin, we have a dynamic compose screen to where you can validate and improve the personalization very quickly. So let's jump in. Let's jump into the product and take a look. I'll show you how to do these 4 things, and then I'll leave some time for some questions at the end. So before we start contacting some of these candidates, let me just take you into the Manage Templates and Campaigns. Again, you want to create templates. They will save you a ton of time. So up here we have our campaigns, which hold our follow-up messages and our first outreach email. The emails we've been discussing during this webinar will be down here. They will not be in a campaign. Let's take a look. So we have a front-end template. We can either make a copy or we can edit this template. I'm going to make a copy. And a couple things here. So I talked a lot about the curly brackets and custom variables. And so you see here in the subject line, I'm going to be able to have an automatic personal subject line because I'm saying I checked out your, and it's going to pull in the candidate's web profile. And then I'm saying impressive professional interest, so it will pull in something like JavaScript or PHP or whatever that candidate happens to be interested in. And then I'm also using these custom variables in my body, right? So I was doing my homework on sites like, and it'll pull in maybe GitHub, Stack Overflow, Meetup, and it's going to do this automatically for me. Let's say I want to change this. Maybe I want to change candidate web profile 2. Maybe I want to pull in web profile 3. Let's take a look. Candidate web profile 3. Copy this, and I'm going to paste it right into my template, and now I have a custom variable in my template. So let's save this. I'm going to do front end template, copy, save template, and now I have this template ready to use. So let's jump up to the source tab, and you'll notice I've built out a search for a front-end developer, JavaScript, Angular, Node. Maybe they do full stack JavaScript. Let's take a look. Some of these candidates. Shobit. We'll take a look at Shobit's activity. We see here that he has 4 stars in Android. So on TalentBin, this is a 1 to 4 star rating, and it just shows us how active the candidate is across the web with this keyword. So JavaScript, 4 stars. This is definitely somebody I want to contact. So I'm going to come up to contact on email. I'm going to use my front end template. And look at this, dynamic compose screen. So what we want to do here is, obviously this is already a personal email and we spent 0 time because we used the custom variables, right? So anytime you see this little yellow box, that is the custom variable, right? So we just want to take the time to validate, make sure this is the right personalization. And for us, Android, that's great, but we're actually reaching out on JavaScript, and this candidate has 4 stars in JavaScript. So if I click on Android, I can swap in JavaScript really quickly. Another nice thing too is that I can check, if I click on JavaScript over here, it's going to show me specific activity for this candidate, right? So this person owns the JavaScript repository. I'm going to reference the name of this project because this is a specific project this candidate started, right? So I'm going to improve the personalization here, right? I'm going to say mapbringer.github.io caught my eye. Personal subject line, right? Another cool thing here is we can jump out to GitHub. If we want to go above and beyond, we can click on GitHub. It's going to pull this candidate's GitHub. I can click on repositories here, and I can see, check this out, he is very current with JavaScript, right? 13 days, 15 days. On August 3rd, these are projects this candidate is working on. JavaScript, 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 JavaScript. I know I'm referencing current work. So let's jump back into TalentBin, maybe check out a few more things. I was doing my homework on sites like Meetup, Stack Overflow. Hey, let's switch in GitHub. He has a great GitHub profile. So once again, I click on Meetup, I come up here to GitHub, and I swap it in. Boom. Awesome. GitHub, Stack Overflow, notice your Android. Again, I want this to be JavaScript, so I'm going to come up here. I'm going to switch into JavaScript. And maybe I can do HTML5 as well. HTML5 and JavaScript. Whoops. Perfect. Plus you're interested in C and Game of Thrones. Awesome. Click on Game of Thrones. It's going to pop me over to his personal interest. 2 stars in Game of Thrones. It'd be nice if there was 4 stars here. I'd be a little more confident. But I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway because Game of Thrones is awesome. Who doesn't love Game of Thrones? I have a personal email. I'm going to choose my follow-up campaign. And this is something we've covered in a completely separate webinar. But this will automate my follow-up messages, right? So my second, my third, my fourth. So everything on TalentBin is automated. I'm going to go ahead and send this message, and this candidate's going to receive a personal email. I've taken the time to explain why this is a great opportunity, and I expect to get a pretty positive, productive response. And I did this within 3 to 5 minutes. So, if this all seems a little confusing, if you don't get these yellow pop-ups here when you're working on your emails, call your product specialist at TalentBin. This is a new feature. We'd be happy to help you build out your templates using these custom variables. This is your product specialist team. Jump back into the presentation here. Each one of you has a product specialist here at TalentBin. We'd love to help dial in your first email. We will go over the new feature that I just mentioned, the custom variables. We will show you how to work really quick, how to get good emails out efficiently. Also, worth mentioning, we have a ton of content on our support portal. This webinar will go up, and we also have 7 other webinars. We cover drip campaigns, subject lines, how to maximize your efficiency. So basically anything you want to learn how to do on TalentBin, you can find it on our support portal. And then also don't hesitate to set up one-on-one time with your product specialist. We look forward to helping as much as possible. We want to see you engage and drive placements with passive candidates. So I appreciate it. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great weekend. We look forward to working with you next week.